Hi guys, Lightspeed Sound here, and inspired by the wonderful Wendy, I decided to make a video explaining why Battlemagic is such a big deal. Okay, so for those of you who don't know who Tamora Pierce is, for girls who liked fantasy and grew up in the 90s, Tamora Pierce is basically the equivalent of Elvis. Tamora Pierce is this amazing, surprisingly white fantasy writer. She writes about people of color in fantasy world situations that is fucking awesome. Okay, she started off with the Tortall universe, which I'm not really gonna get into right now because the Tortall universe is super complicated, but let's be honest here. She wrote one of the first books that featured a European fantasy setting with knights and shit, only it emphasized women as knights, and the main character was this badass named Alana. Admittedly, okay, so she had some problems in that she was sort of a white savior, and the books are a little bit imperialistic because it was also the 90s, and Tamora Pierce has often said I was kind of forced to do some of these plots and shit. Anyways, Alana basically beats the boys at their own shit, and then ends up saving the world, having sex with the prince, and then being like, screw you, prince, I'm not gonna bow down to your heteronormative white cis heterosexual male standards. I'm gonna tell you to stop whining your ass off. And here, by the way, this is Thayette. I helped her get out of her own country. She's a princess, by the way. She's the most beautiful woman in the world, and she's a warrior that could kick your ass at archery. Have fun. And then went off to have sex and marry, like, the king of thieves, whose name is George Cooper, who is also pretty damn awesome. And Tamora Pierce was like, you know what? Creating one awesome, huge, widespread fantasy universe, that's not enough for me. I'm gonna create two. And then the Circle of Magic books came out. The Circle of Magic books are fucking amazing. And the Circle of Magic books for women of color who grew up in the 90s are very dear to their hearts. Like, I am not going to lie. The Circle of Magic books were literally some of the only books I had as a child that featured women of color being magical badasses minus this weird imperialistic white savior bullshit nonsense. The Circle of Magic books feature, like, Sandry, who is, by the way, not white because she's related to Duke Vidris, who is the Duke of Emelon, which has been established to be Turkey. And I'm sorry, she's also maybe part Russian, but she's also part Turkish. So she's not all white. She is a stitch witch. Her magic is embroidery and sewing and weaving. While sewing and weaving may not seem all that powerful at first, Sandry literally weaves and sews magic. She uses it to explode people. It's awesome. And then you have Daja Kusubo, who is a trader, and traders are like this kind of sort of Romani equivalent. Nobody really likes them because they're an isolated society and they're foreigners and they're black and like the entirety of society shits on them, but also they're like fuck you society, and they go off and they do their own thing and they have their own rituals and shit, and Daja Kusubo is one of them, and her family's ship crashes and she gets declared Trangishi. But anyways, the important thing is that she's a badass fucking metal mage, she's a blacksmith, she's black, and it turns out she's a fucking lesbian, and she's one of the most powerful blacksmith mages in the world. Fucking stopped a forest fire by weaving it and shoving it into a glacier, and then we find out that, like, she can create living metal with her blood. Pardon the pun, but that's really fucking metal. And then you have Briar Moss. Oh my god, he's so hot. Anyone, any girl, any person attracted to men in general who read Tamora Pierce falls in love with Briar Moss. He's fucking mixed race. He's like part Asian in that he has like the bronze skin of a Yangjingi native, but also has like these brilliant green eyes. And it's fucking amazing. Briar Moss is this like street kid, grew up in a fucking gang, gets rescued out of a life of hard labor, and then it turns out he's this badass plant mage. By badass plant mage, I mean if he throws some seeds and shit at you, like he can make thorns grow straight through your body and also waken dead wood to like collapse and grow around you. If your house is made of wood, you better not piss off Briar Moss. Then you have Trisanda Chandler, who is not a person of color. She is white, but she's fat and generally considered unattractive. She's not a skinny wayfish redhead. She's a cranky, fat, nearsighted redhead who is totally fine with being cranky and fat and nearsighted. It's totally like body positivity, and she may get teased and shit about it, but it's okay because she's a fucking badass weather mage and she fucking throws lightning at people who piss her off, and sometimes she can fly using the winds which she has braided into her hair. Seriously, for real, like, what the fuck? So, okay, so the 90s were the Circle of Magic, which were the original quartet, the 4 stories, each featuring Sandry, Triss, Daja, and Briar. In the 2000s, Tamora Pierce came out with The Circle Opens. They all have students. All 4 of them go off on these world travel adventures, which is really cool because it's like this extended universe of non-Western history and fantasy being melded together with like non-white people being the main characters. And in the past like 5 or so years, we've really only had 2 books come out in the extended Circle of Magic series because Tamora Pierce was focusing on Tortal for a really long time. But anyways, we had The Will of the Empress, which is the book where they all come back together and like have to grow up, and we find out legitimately that like Daja is a lesbian, which is awesome. And also we find out that the 2 mages slash dedicates of the Living Circle Temple, which raised the 4 of them, are actually lesbians together. We all knew it. Tamora Pierce just wasn't allowed to say it until now. And okay, so like in The Will of the Empress, we find out that Briar and his student, Ivu Meme Dingzai, who by the way is Asian and a street rat and is a badass stone mage who literally makes like a mansion collapse around itself. We find out that they were in this war involving the Yanjingi Emperor and the land of Gyeongsi, which is, according to Tamora Pierce, an analog for China's invasion of Tibet, which is really cool because she works in, like, a lot of the political commentary and shit in the books. There's a lot of anti-imperialism stuff in the books, but we don't actually know this story. All we get are these little snippets of flashbacks where it turns out Briar's got PTSD and is having flashbacks of the battle and also is, like, emotionally ravaged. And literally, that is all we get. Briar was in a war, and he doesn't know how to handle it because war sucks, and he's so fucking traumatized. But then we get Melting Stones, which is this book featuring Ivu Meme Dingzai, where she fucking tames a volcano with magic. She tames and harnesses the spirits of a volcano. I am not making this shit up. These books are fucking amazing. Also, we only get little tiny snippets and snapshots of the war and the shit that Evie went through. We don't get the full story. We have been teased by this enormous, huge story, which we have not read, which is clearly integral to all of these books that have come out for like, okay, 2005, 2013, shit, for 8 fucking years. We have been having to deal with this shit. We don't know the story of Briar and Evie and Rosethorn and the fucking Chinese-Tibetan War. But finally, today, I found out that Battlemagic has finally come out. And Battlemagic has been years in the making, and Battlemagic is the war that we never got to read. And it's like, fuck yeah! We get more Briar Moss, we get more Rosethorn, we get more of this extended universe of Asian people, which is fucking fantastic because how often are there actually Asian people in American fantasy? And I just have to say, fucking thank you, Tamora Pierce. And like, even if I have a literal metric shit ton of work because I am in law school and I am working and I am interning and I am all grown up now and living in the real world, I still instantly ran to Amazon and I downloaded that shit and sent it to my iPhone via the Kindle store. I grew up on your books, Tamora Pierce, and your books inspired me in ways that I really didn't get from most of mainstream fantasy fiction. As a woman of color, as a queer woman of color, like, these books really just gave me hope and inspired me to be a powerful woman today, and I do not hesitate to say that Tamora Pierce's books inspired my feminism, inspired my empowerment, and fuck yeah, Tamora Pierce, you did well. Thank you for being an amazing ally and giving us a voice. Alright, bye guys, that was it. I'm sorry I haven't really been posting videos. I am really busy, as I mentioned. I am in law school, but I figured this was a momentous occasion, so thanks. Alright, bye.